Okay. Ready?
Yellow leather, brown leather. Quick
Yellow
brown,
leather, brown leather.
quick brown box jumped over the slide dog. Lazy dog. All right. Ow now,
You
brown
know this
cow.
gonna be in the
Yep.
bloopers. Oh man. Here we go. In three, two, one. Hey y'all. I'm back. It's Ange. This is Ange Inspires because I just want to be me and inspire you. And guess who I got with me? My husband. Ooh. My husband. Oh, I was gonna say something so corny. I was gonna say, and inspires now. It's Scott to inspire because like our wedding hashtag, our wedding hashtag is Scott to be real. So it's like got to, Scott to. So like anything you gotta do is just gotta do it now. So now we gotta inspire. If you know, you know, right? If it works for you, it works for me too. He not with my all my shenan. See, I can't say the word. My
Shenanigans.
shenanigans. But yeah, anyway, it's us, the Scots, and we are currently on our honeymoon. By the time you see this, we'll be back home in the States and everything. I know, right?
Boo.
Nobody wants to go back to real life.
No.
We've been living in a dream for 2 weeks, um, and enjoy living our best life, huh? But we'll talk about it. So, what we wanted to do was kind of do a bit of a life recap, catch up, because we realized, man, we haven't done a video together in a while. Definitely not before we got engaged. Like, I know we did how we met video and dating at a distance, um, our first date,
Mhm.
and but we hadn't really had a chance to catch up with you guys before we got engaged, and of course now we're married, so we just wanted to catch you guys up. So basically what we're going to do is kind of make a series here, just talking through the process from engagement through wedding day, and a little bit of a honeymoon recap. I try to do a little vloggy vlog for you guys, so we're going to see how that goes. So that's what we're going to do. This first conversation we're going to have is centered around engagement. We want to talk all things engagement. So I'm gonna let Jaquan start it off because that was kind of his project and surprise,
Mhm.
right? And so let's tell the people lead up to engagement. Like, when did you know? Or first of all, when did we buy the ring? And like, when did you know it was time to propose and everything?
Bought the ring in July of 23, I believe. We were at the store. We just went just for the purpose of
To
trying to
look.
see what she liked, just to look. And she saw the ring after we bounced around a couple of stores. We had been in K. We left K. We had to go back to K because she saw this ring, couldn't let it go, and was like, "Well, if you know this is the ring you want, I'm not gonna like. I'm just gonna buy it now. What's the purpose of me sneaking back up here to come buy it? So, bought it right there with her there. So she knew I had it. She knew it was in the drawer of my room
I went and
box.
tried it on one time.
Went and tried it on. And so it stayed there for a while. I knew I was ready to ask her to marry me when I was willing to endure the hard stuff, the stuff
Mm.
that uh, inevitably comes with any marriage or any relationship, really, but marriage especially, that people tend to dread,
Mm.
myself included, and I felt willing to go through that because I felt that we had done the work individually and collectively uh, within ourselves, emotionally, mentally, spiritually, to prepare ourselves to weather those storms as best as we can. Does that mean it's all going to be peachy key, fine and dandy? Does that mean it's going to be a breeze to do it? No, but it means that ultimately we're going to have the tools we need to do it well.
I got
Whether
a
it
question.
be, yeah.
So what does that look like? The willingness to go through the hard, like, what would you say were some things that were like noted? These are things that work.
I think one of the things that helps, I'm getting to my personal philosophy about dating and relationships. And so I think time is not necessarily an ingredient to a relationship in and of itself. I think with time comes experiences. And so the time that we've had together, we've had a lot of experiences in a short amount of time and relatively short amount of time. One of which being me losing my childhood home, for example. And that being like one of the worst things that ever happened to me in my life. And so not only did Angie get to see me during that time, but I got to see how she showed up for me during that time. And that was one of the things where I was like, noted. Like, she showed up very well, very present, um, was willing to let me process, take time to myself, what have you. Um, Basically willing to do or be whatever I needed in that moment in time, and always pointed me back to God. And so that was something that I took note of. Whenever we had conflict, disagreements, we were both willing to admit wrong. And just a little quicker than I am at that sometimes, but both willing to admit when we're wrong, willing to notice the error and make changes, and apologize not just through words but through change behavior. And I think that was also paramount for me in recognizing my willingness to move forward. I think the demonstrated interest in wanting to learn how to communicate better from both of us really
Yeah.
has been critical for me. What was critical for me too, and so those are just some of the things that really, once you see the desire for the skill, the development for the skill, you know that the other person is just as willing and ready um, for the mess, if you will. So, yeah.
Okay, that's good. I hope that that's helpful for somebody listening, because I think like a lot of times, even just single and not dating, it's hard when you start thinking, I want to be married one day. How do I prepare for that? Like, it's hard to just hear to hear a blanket statement. Like, I think what I wish that I had personally is more examples like that. Like, hey, I'm just looking for the real evidence and fruit of a wife, right? Like, I'm looking for evidence. What does that look like? Like, especially looking at a biblical example and then being able to say, not the Proverbs 31 woman, the I don't think that we use her as a very practical checklist. Like, I need to have a business. I need to, but looking at some of those characteristics, and even just looking at the fruit of the spirit, right? Like, have I showed up patient, kind, not proud, rude? I mean, I'm talking about First Corinthians 13, not fruit of the spirit, but they go hand in hand together still. Um, I was like, wait a second, I'm going through First Corinthians 13 about love, but both of those are actual checklists that I think apply across the board to any believer, that you should be looking for in a spouse. And I think when we have opportunities to see real evidence and fruit, especially multiple times, I think that is what we need to be looking for in our decision making and in our preparation. Because even in my singleness, I can practice being patient, right? Like, even in my singleness with no prospects, I can be kind to people. I can learn how to love people well. And then when I get into a relationship, continuing to practice those things, continuing to show evidence of the spirit in me to my spouse, helps to show, one, that I'm a wife, right? And two, to show him that, yes, she got the Lord, and I can trust that even outside of her humanness, she know the Lord, and she loved the Lord, and she'll listen to the Lord. And if I could just add from my perspective on, like, because I feel like I knew I was ready way before. I'm like, yeah, that's my husband. We gonna be, this is gonna be, this is the end goal. We gonna be married. But I think for me, one of the things, like one of the major things that kind of is just entwined in our story is the obedience. Like, I've seen Jaquan show up and be willing to be uncomfortable to do what God told him to do. Like, he's willing to make himself uncomfortable to be obedient. He's willing to put pride aside, even if it takes some time to process. He gonna do what the Lord told him to do, and that humility is huge. That makes it easy to submit. Cause I'm like, I don't know what that looks like because I wasn't married yet, right? But I'm like, I'm more willing to submit to this man because I've seen that he can hear from the Lord. Number one, that he can hear from the Lord. He spent time with the Lord. He hear from him, and when he hears from the Lord, he responds. He obeys. And I've seen countless examples of that over the span of time that we've been together, and that makes it easy for me to be like, okay, you know, I trust the God in you. I know your humanness is gonna show up, and we'll work through that because that's what, like you said, we've seen evidence that we've been willing to work through challenges when challenges come up. But I trust the God in you. I trust that when He speaks to your heart, you listen. So that's a big thing for me too. So yeah. Okay. So a little bit. That was the how you knew you were ready. Um, Tell me about, because I love to hear this story. Because I'm on the receiving end. How did the actual engagement come about?
Yeah, so um, I had a plan for how I was gonna pose. It's going through a couple iterations. There was once a plan to do like a get a portrait commissioned. I deemed him one of the people I went to high school with who does art, and was like, "Hey, would you be willing to paint this portrait? Like repaint this picture I sent them, but with you with a engagement ring on?"
Wow.
And she was like, "Yeah." And then negotiations just fell through, and I was like, "Okay, pivot." And so the idea came to me to recreate something that we had done together way back when we first started dating. And so one of the first times Angie came to visit me, she had created a board game out of cardboard and paper and like markers. And so
DIY queen.
we used that to like fill in the spaces together, created like little like cards. When you land on an action space, you pull a card, you do what it says, yada yada. And so I said, I still have that board game and all the pieces to it. And so I found a company to actually recreate that board game for me. So what I had to do was I had to go on Canva and build the board game in Canva. And so shout out to Canva for
Shout out to
uh,
Canva.
um, being a resource. And so use Canva to recreate the board game as best as I could in their software, and then basically sent that as a PNG file to the company and had them print that on a board game. I also had some pictures from when we took a cruise for her birthday. I had those put on blank playing cards so that we could redo the whole process of recreating those cards again together. Um, and then I printed out a picture of her and I and pasted it over the last square. So I had the last square changed from "you win" to "will you marry me." And so the point of the game, well, initially was to have us play the game and for me to uncharacteristically let her win and have her pull the photo off. And so I had all this done, ready to go at like the end of November. It was sitting in my home, tucked away, hidden, because Angie is very observant. Some would say nosy, and I had it tucked away and hidden, so she couldn't find it by happenstance. And so, and she asked me, "What's this?" and put me in a compromised position. And so I had it hidden for a good little while. And then the day I was supposed to propose at a game night, I actually ended up losing my grandmother that day. And so, as you can imagine, we canceled the game night. I went to Virginia to be with my family, and plans were put on hold. And so here comes the next opportunity for a game night. And Angie's like, "Hey, do you want to invite new people? Do you want to do the OGs?" And I'm trying to like fix the game, if you will, to be the circumstance I like, aka I want to propose. And so I'm like, let's just do the OGs, just go around. We're in Charlotte, and so we invited people who came to the very first game night, and I DM'd them and just said, "Hey, you might not want to miss this one." Wink, wink, nudge, nudge, with a little ring emoji. And so got lots of excitement back and guarantees they'd be there. And so come day of, I'll bring the board game. We set up. We do all the usual preparation for game night, getting food, yada yada. And 7 o'clock rolls around. We're supposed to start, and no one's there. And Angie's like saying, "Well, it was just you and I for the game night, and that's fine. We'll just play games and talk. It'll be okay." And in my head, I'm like, "Oh, they're coming. Hey, they'll be here." And then 7:45 rolls around. People start showing up, and so we do end up talking, playing games, eating all that good stuff. And by the end of the night, it's like 11 o'clock. I'm like, I can't play through this whole game. I'm just gonna pivot, call audible. And so I ran upstairs, snuck off real quick. I was like, let's just play one more game really quickly, y'all. And so I ran upstairs, grabbed the board game, brought it down, unboxed it, and asked Angie to just remove the sticker from the last space. And as she was doing that, I was down on one knee and asked her to marry me. And for the first time ever, Angie was speechless. Could not say a word. And so
Ladies.
the funny part is going into that week, I started itching real bad on my side and was like, yo, what's this? I gotta change my body wash. I just changed it. I need to change it again. Come to find out I had shingles. So we got shingles leading up to it, but didn't let that stop me. Got to a point where I was knew I wasn't contagious, knew I couldn't transmit chickenpox or anything to anyone, and we still went down with the plan, and it turned out just fine. So
When I tell you he got me, I got. You hear me? I got to the nth degree. And it was, first of all, let me give context for the game nights. Because, yeah, you wouldn't know if you didn't know. So, one of the things that we have been doing since we've been together is couples game nights. And it started because I wanted to introduce Jaquan to my friends in Charlotte. It was my way of getting my girls together and their guys to come and be like, what y'all think? And so we started doing these game nights, connecting our friends. And it's just been a thing since then. So we've been doing that now for what, 3 years, four? Going on 4 years. This year will be 4 years. And we just do them quarterly ish. Get our friends together. When he referred to the OG crew, this is the original group of couples that we had, and then we've since then been able to expand, introduce some new couples to the group, between cities and things like that. And we just like to gather our friends and just chat, play games, whatever it ends up being that day, whatever's needed. So that's game night that we referred to. So yeah, so we're having a game night, and I'm clueless. I'm just, if it's just me and you, like Jaquan said, I'm good, right? And we know, we love our friends. Sometimes they be a little late, and so it just is what it is. I'm just always that weird person that I'd be like 7 o'clock, everything, the house clean, everything's ready for start time. So I get a little anxious about that stuff. But our friends, sure enough, showed up. They did, and we had a great time. And I noticed Jaquan run upstairs, and I'm like, "Where he going? What's up there? That ain't down here." Because we already set everything up. So what we doing? And he come down
see,
with that box,
nosy.
inquisitive. uh, so yeah, everything was a complete shock to, like, I when I say I am very, very rarely speechless, like I had zero word. I didn't even have tears. I was just taking it all in, like, what is happening right now? And it was so special to have our closest, like, couple friends in a room. Um and just celebrating with us, and it was just a perfect moment. Jaquan really did this man is so thoughtful. So he just really set the bar super high on the thoughtfulness level with that, because he really got me. um, and we were able to just kind of take that moment in with our friends. I see if I can clip a video in there, in this video for you guys to see a little something something. But it was just the most beautiful, and I love the ring. I'm not a jewelry girl too much, so like when we picked out the ring, I really wanted to make sure it was something that I would want to wear that reflects me, and um, it just, the whole process was great. And I think, you know this reminds me of our video about how we met, when we talked about when we let stuff go, and then it happened. Because for a moment, like Jaquan said, we got that ring in July, and proposal was not until March. Literally, today's March 17th. Yesterday, March 16th, was a year since we got engaged. So July to March was how long the ring, I knew it was purchased, and it was not on my finger yet. Okay, and so the patience for me. There was sometimes I was getting a little bit like, okay, so could it be this time? Could it be this time? When's he gonna do it? Is he gonna do it here? Is he gonna do it here? What's gonna happen? And eventually I just let it go. Like, Lord, at the end of the day, I know I'm gonna marry this man. The ring has been purchased. He's gonna propose. Like, when it's up to your timing, because you know the best timing for us. I'm not gonna sit here and stress over all these details. It doesn't matter, because at the end of the day, I know he's gonna marry me. I know we're gonna be married. And so, looking at God's track record, his timing has always been perfect. He pays attention to every single detail that regards us. And so I was able to just let my whole idea of what everything will look like go. And then soon after, I get proposed to. And I couldn't have planned it any better than it went. I couldn't have planned how well it went.
I remember having that conversation. You said, "I'm just gonna let it go." It was like a few weeks before the game night happened. I was like, "Good,
Yeah.
good to know."
So that's just a little tidbit there. It's like, man, sometimes you really just gotta let stuff go. Give it to God. Like, really just let it. When we talk about casting our cares because he cares for us, it's really believing that he cares about you. Like, God cares about every detail in your life. So you casting your cares is saying, I trust that you know better than I do. I trust that you care more than I care about this issue. As much as I'm tripping about it, as much as I care about it, as much as I'm concerned about it, you're even more concerned about the wellness of my life. You know what I mean? Like, you're even more concerned about all things working together for the good, because I know I'm called by your purpose, called according to your purpose. So being able to just really cast them cares and leave them, leave them with Jesus, has been something I've learned, not only through this engagement process, but just really a lot of in life and specifically in our journey together. So yeah. Okay. Oh, and another thing about engagement, we was not trying to be engaged long, y'all. So, or at least probably me more. I think that was more me, because I was like, look, Jaquan, we're gonna be together for 3 years. I ain't trying to be engaged for another 3. Okay. Can we get married in a year? I want to be married March of next year. I'm pretty sure that was more me. Yeah. I said, I'm not trying to be engaged for long now, because now you put in being engaged, it's like the finish line is right there. You know what I mean? We've been waiting. And we were waiting and celibate before we even met. So it wasn't just a dating thing. We had both been celibate, 3 to 4 years before we even met? Something like that. Then added on the 3 years of us date. Let's go and get married so we can do married people stuff and go on. Because, engagement is like a teaser. You so close, but you ain't there. People can get too comfortable in engagement because you're like, well, we're almost married, but you're not. You know what I mean? Things are different, but it ain't that different where you just be fully free. Like, you still got to have restraint. So I was like, I don't want to belabor this. I want to belabor the moment. Let's make this a speedy process. And we had already talked about what we wanted in a wedding and things like that. So yeah, we got into planning talks. So that'll be the next conversation that we have, is getting into wedding planning, and all the things the things we took away from the journey. This is not a wedding planning tips chat or anything like that. Like, I'm not a wedding planner. We only just planned our wedding, so not experts here, but just want to share the things we learned from the process in order to give you some hope, maybe a little guidance if you're planning a wedding, or if you want to get married and do the wedding things. Hopefully that'll be helpful. But yeah, you have anything else to add to the engagement conversation before we wrap it up? Cool. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed this video and inspires. And my husband, Mr. Scott, I had to do that, bro. My husband, Mr. Scott to inspire. Oh gosh. All right, we'll see you in the next video. Why are we like this?
Wait, that's so cute. Look at the cards.
Oh my goodness. Is it about black people? Is it about black people?
He's also black people.
Oh my gosh, Jaquan.
Here's the board.
Okay.
This is so
Oh my god, Jaquan.
My boy made his own game.
Oh,
Oh, that's crazy. Oh,
If you start stepping like this,
Come on now. Bring this
That
energy.
look familiar?
The Jaquan energy game. That's
wow, the game.
Come
Oh,
on,
he snapped.
energy.
One of our first
Big
dates,
loaf.
What?
we made a board game together.
Oh, man.
And we titled it Our Best Life.
Oh.
And we went through and we created cards.
It's just
we
too much.
played. We had a great time.
Oh.
And so I decided for our next game night, let me try to recreate that game. And so that's what this is. A one-for-one recreation of that game. But I think you should pull that sticker up.
Uh-oh. What's on that sticker?
Uh-oh.
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 Uh-oh, what's that?
Hmm.
What that say?
Oh,
Yo, that's crazy.
Angela, Patrice Warren, will you do me a favor?
Okay.
Will you marry me?
Oh!